guys from CAA Digital Talent, Packaging, and Brand Partnerships team. I'm on here. I'll let these guys introduce themselves in a minute. Over the last few days, it's been really great to see all the presentations and all the topics ranging from data to research to distribution to partnering with existing and new IP. We do, as one of the biggest sports entertainment agencies, we do a ton with all those partners, and it's great to see how the conversations are progressing in our brand storytelling element. Today, we're really going to focus on the storytelling part of it. We do a lot of work with our talent to understand their passions, to understand where they want to partner, to understand where brands can come into that and help enable it. So traditionally, brands have really partnered more on a transactional level and more on an endorsement, which I'm sure a lot of you do a lot of. And this is just a different entry point that we are seeing a lot of great results in, where brands can come in to understand a passion, whether that be Zac Efron, who we did a very interesting project with, because he's a huge outdoor adventurist, and we teamed him up with Columbia and did a series around that. Whether that be Margot Robbie, she's Australian. When she came to the US, she joined the US men's hockey team. Who knew that she was so involved with sports? So there's lots of different ways to partner with talent, and we are trying to do that with our brand partners now. Today we have Eric Day, co-founder of INE production company. They create content across linear and digital, across all platforms, and have a really great ability of working with brands. So I'll let him introduce himself in a second. We also have Chad Nelson from Topgolf. How many guys have been, or people have been to Topgolf here? It is just awesome.
It's nice, I like that.
Yeah, bump up in revenue.
Yeah.
So Topgolf is a really dynamic company. I've learned a lot over the last few years about how dynamic they truly are. And so I'll let Chad go into that in a second. We're going to use an example today of a project we did with Lady Antebellum's lead singer, Charles Kelley. I'm not sure how many of you know Lady Antebellum, but they're a seven-time Grammy Award-winning band. And Charles is infatuated with golf. But his equal infatuation is also with family, friends, music, and just having a good time. So Charles... So Charles, and we'll get into this in a little bit, but Charles really expressed his passion to his team that we work really closely with. He did a lot on Instagram, he did a lot in social with golf, with his brothers, with his families, with his friends, with other celebrities. And it was just clear as day that this is something he wanted to do. So we went out and thought about what type of brand would be a great brand partner, and we'll let Chad talk about in a second. But again, this is really about us at CAA figuring out and talking to our talent about things they want to do outside their day jobs. And then understanding and working, really communicating with brands to understand what DNA, what do they want to come through content? How can we actually make content that is compelling, that is engaging, that's not strictly branded entertainment, that has the brand DNA in it, but also enables talent to do what they want to do. So I'll shut up for a second, and I will let Chad do a brief 101 on Topgolf.
Sure, thank you, Scott. So Chad Nelson from, I head up actually content creator for Topgolf. It's nice to see many of you have been to a Topgolf. For those who haven't, it's an interesting thing because when you hear about us and you might have seen us or you might have seen a picture and you think, oh, it's a driving range, or it's maybe a driving range with a sports bar is sometimes the common perception. But what we're actually building is what we like to describe as we're building an entertainment sports experience. Much like the Dallas Cowboys are an NFL team, and they have, of course, their stadiums and their arenas, but they are a much larger property and really an entertainment vehicle, if you will, for all their fans. And we think of ourselves much in the same way. You know, we're providing entertainment and sports, and it's a culmination of really four things for us as a company. We're clearly play, and golf comes into is one key pillar. But it's also about the food and beverage. It's also about music and how do we bring in live music and music acts or the latest music in terms of pop or country and so forth into our venues. And then also how do we reach out into our communities. Topgolf is in 40 locations around the world right now, 37 in the United States. But when we actually move into a city, we employ hundreds of what we call associates. Basically, that's our employees. And we really become a part of that community. And so we actually want to be an active member within that community. So for us as a business, it's how do we start telling our story, our brand story, beyond just the four walls of our venues and create experiences and entertainment in the digital world, the virtual world, and now, of course, in social through linear content and social media. So that's kind of really my job.
And we actually have a quick video
Yeah,
that'll give you a little bit better sense in case you haven't been.
Yeah, let's take a look.
This is a breath of fresh air for the game of golf. This is just what golf needs.
They really have reinvented golf and driving ranges. Whatever you're looking for is offered here.
It is the perfect mix of fun and golf, if you're a golfer or not. You can enjoy it.
You got all kinds of targets out here, you got great food, you got so many different aspects to just having a good time. That's what I like.
It's got a lot of pretty neat things set up here that I think anybody who comes out here will enjoy.
It's not a bad place to have to go for a meeting. Or work. Eric, can you give a quick one-on-one on INE, what you guys are up to, and how you've been working with brands, and then we'll get into this show specifically.
Sure. Full service television, I guess, content production company. Started about 6 years ago, but really sort of built the infrastructure to sort of not be addicted to the big TV budgets, but really sort of set ourselves up for being nimble and short form storytelling. I come out of that sort of side of video when we started it, and my partner, Mark Coops, has been making big broadcast shows, and we had sort of combined all that we've done over the years before that to build sort of kind of the next generation production company. And not really the only ones doing it, but I think at the core, and I think this show and our partnership here is sort of part and parcel of everything that we do, which is starting with a very passionate talent, or talent who's got a passion for something, and building a show around that. And our, that's everything that we've done, from lifestyle shows on television to docuseries to scripted shows. And so talent doesn't always have to mean somebody who's in front of the camera, but oftentimes the writing, directing team back there. But there's a genesis for everything we do, because I think that's where great ideas come from. Occasionally those might actually be our own ideas, but a lot of times sort of steering that. And a big, we do a fair amount in the branded world, and sometimes we get RFPs to create and produce series. But I think we've always had the disposition, and I think if anybody's ever watched The Biggest Loser and was on air, very advertiser friendly. I was, doing branded entertainment at Microsoft and brokering those big deals going on, and you can really see the value that brands would bring to creating really compelling entertainment stuff. And the early days of sort of non-linear digital video, or whatever we called it back then. But that's always been our disposition, is that brands can be great partners. They have great audience insights. They have great distribution partnerships, and they can be real partners in us unlocking the passion. And I think what we've done here is just sort of a great example of that.
Thanks. And then what I mentioned in the opening was that, again, Charles had done a few videos and a few Instagram posts, was very passionate about golf. His brother was
look, the guy goes on tour.
Born in
And then he plays golf. That's all he does. So this is not a leap.
No, it's not a leap, but at all. But again, it started with his passion, started with what he wanted to do, and it was kind of on the smaller end, it's just something he was doing for fun, and now it's turned into a series called The Hook, We'll show you a quick sizzle of that series, and then we'll get into how it was created, how it was developed, and how the process is working. Should also be noted that Chad is also greenlit season 2, so we're all very happy about that. We'll find out exactly what metrics he's looking at or what had helped lead to that decision. So let's play it.
What's up, guys? I'm Charles Kelley from the band Lady Antebellum, and I've got a cool new show with Topgolf I'm doing. The show is called The Hook, and my brother John Kelley, he's definitely the best golfer in the family. I don't know, he's a little arrogant.
Sometimes you gotta teach these new guys.
It's like he gets in my head.
I'm not in your way, am I? Don't want to hover or anything. That's what big brothers do.
I'm telling you, it's stuck with me my whole life, having him nag me and say that he's better than me at this game, and I think this is my chance to prove him wrong. And I think I've got a few people up my sleeve, I think, that are gonna help me get a little revenge with my older brother.
Let's take him down, Charles.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
I'm excited.
That's my partner right there.
It's a lot of fun. We try not to take ourselves too seriously.
Can you see me down here? But you got a fairly long putt. Trash talking.
Probably gonna see some good shots.
And that's how it's done.
Oh! Bad shots.
Hey, are these linoleum greens or what?
Oh my gosh, that was bad. We let it play out however it plays out and have a little fun.
Again, not a bad set, is it? So Chad, from a macro perspective, talk for a second about the role of investing in content for Topgolf. What does it mean to you guys? What does it play in your marketing scheme? And kind of what's the internal either support you have, or frankly, I think a lot of us in the room, sometimes when you're going out and doing stuff like this, don't have the kind of support. So talk to us a little bit about the role.
Yeah, so I mean, Topgolf, we've been, for the last few years, more of a localized brand. I mean, we've been in local markets, mostly through the southern portion of the United States, and now we're kind of starting to get to that level where we can start to say that we're evolving now into a national brand. I mean, the Vegas venue that just opened, Nashville just opened, and now we're opening many more internationally. So for us, many of our stories in the beginning are just about how do we get our awareness out? How do we actually tell people what Topgolf is? And then if you're not even a golfer, you're going to have a great time, and bring your family, bring your coworkers, and come on out. And so for us, we could have invested in TV advertising. We could have done traditional 15s and 30s and put them on late night and cable, local markets. And that's one way to tell your story. And there's, someone could argue that that's an effective way too. But we're about building really much more of a connection to our audience. We really see the value in our social networks. And so investing in Facebook content and in YouTube content and our Instagram feeds, from our chairman down, he sees building a media network is kind of a fundamental part of our business. And so with that, it's, okay, so how do we take and build content for those mediums that is not just another, even though the ad I just showed is clearly much more of a sizzle reel, let's actually start telling real stories that people would want to share, that people genuinely and authentically would say, oh my gosh, that was really entertaining. And in doing so, I learned a little bit about Topgolf. I'm going to go check this out. Call my brother, or send it to my brother via Facebook and say, let's go check this out next weekend. And we feel that is a much more powerful way of building our brand and building a fan base than just building these 15 and 30-second spots. And so that's what we're investing in, and we're building a portfolio of content that kind of tells various stories and entertainment within kind of, like I mentioned in the beginning, our pillars.
In a second, I want you to talk about the other shows that you're doing too. That are, but Eric,
Other shows?
I know. Some are with you, no sweat.
Yeah, I do a lot of work.
You're just fine. So Eric, talk a little bit about the process. You've worked a lot with brands, but on this show specifically, from the moment you heard about Charles' passion to the moment that Chad signed off on season 1, in a short amount of time. I know it took a couple months, but short it.
Sure. Well, as I said earlier, we had a great place to start, which was strong passion for golf. He had an idea for a show they wanted to do, which I think that was one of the first challenges. It was next to impossible to produce show, because he wanted to play 12 rounds of golf with his brothers, which is a logistical nightmare for a guy who travels every week to play different arenas. On the budget, with unlimited budget, we could have done anything. Sure. But it also would have been relatively narrow, and I think. No, we're good. Because look, you round of golf, 4 hours, playing 18 holes at a minimum. plus you add the production layer to it. To cut that down, that's a lot of wasted time. So we want to come up with a more creative way, and I think also to broaden beyond just Charles's audience, to define ways to bring others into it, which you saw lots of names that came up in the sizzle reel, and pull them into the fold, because I think, as a socially distributed show, we need to tap all of those other audiences and those other fan bases to pull them in, because that's how the sort of sphere of influence and the reach of Topgolf gets increased. But at the same time, Charles, he had that show and was about playing golf, but we had a brand partner who recognized Charles' connection to his audience and his passion for golf and his passion for family, all the things we talked about earlier. But now we had to start working with Charles and his team to weave the food and the fun and the play and some of the other things that are tenets of the brand into that core idea. And it was just, I mean, I feel like it's the easiest part of the process, because you start with passion, the brand's into it, you keep coming back to that passion and just finding ways to make that see the light of day and do those other things.
And the passion piece is key from a talent perspective for the reasons of, typically when a talent gets on set, it's for a set amount of hours or times or deliverables, like, Charles doesn't have any problem spending
service days is the wrong way to get a good show.
Yeah, Charles doesn't have any time, or Zac Efron didn't have any issue with spending another hour on the trail or climbing this mountain or that mountain. So it doesn't feel forced, right? It feels organic, even from the ground of production. Chad, give us a little bit of insights on performance, if you can, and on kind of the process of how it's been successful, either this show or other content that you guys are doing on the platform.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because as you mentioned, in terms of like what are the types of brands or what are brands' interests in coming in, and one of the reasons why I liked working with these guys at INE, and I came in and basically said, look, I mean, every episode should, first of all, not be at a Topgolf. Like, Topgolf, it should represent our values and kind of our personality, but I don't want it to just be a giant billboard in 10, 12-minute episodes for Topgolf. And so, in fact, the first few episodes, you never actually even saw Topgolf until, I think, later in the series. Yeah. So it was, so in a way, we're building authentic content that resonates with an audience, and it's entertaining, and then they kind of get, in a way, hooked to the personality of the show, and of course, Charles and his family, and then the celebrities. But for us, it was, okay, let's get an audience, build an audience, and then at some point, we'll reveal Topgolf and how Topgolf can be kind of an authentic experience within the show. But specifically to your question, how do we judge success? I mean, for us, ultimately, we could look at the various KPIs in terms of our video views or minutes viewed, engagement percent, and so forth, and all of those are important. But for us, ultimately, I look at it and just say, are we growing our fan base with each episode? Are more people watching each episode than the last? Are people watching for longer durations? How many people are sharing episodes? Sharing to me is a big way of looking at it. And to me, that just basically represents that this is content that is working as entertaining content and not just as, oh wow, we hit 1 million views, or we hit 10 million views, or whatever that might be. To me, I could buy 10 million views if I wanted to. To me, but I can't buy a share. So those are things that really tell me metrics that are much more meaningful.
Which is also great, because you're obsessed with the metrics, might be an overstatement, but when you're able to feed that back into what we do, and those micro ratings that really get us to understand how people are consuming and watching it, it's very informative in how we continue to iterate.
And data did play a role. We know we partnered you with Fullscreen and getting the data and insights regarding when to release, how to release, thumbnails to have, like, yada, yada, yada. He can go on for days about it. But it did really inform it, but it wasn't limiting at all.
Okay. I was just going to say, and then what's fascinating is in many ways we learn a lot through the show, and we can see, wow, this episode that we might have thought would have done this actually outperformed other episodes in other metrics. Like, wow, this episode, you saw Kelsey Ballerini in there. That episode, she's a rising artist, she's a young talent, but she has a very active social media presence. So when we saw that show came out, the organics views of that was just phenomenal. Compared to, say, a Darius Rucker, who is clearly a bigger name and a much more established musician and entertainer. But it just kind of shows you sometimes there's little surprises that the data will reveal, and then might influence us as we come.
Yeah, I don't think that when we were casting the show, we helped them cast it with some of our clients, some not, but that we would have thought that Kelsey Ballerini would have been the most successful over Darius Rucker or Hope Solo or whatever it may be. Eric?
I voted against her, actually.
You did?
And I was wrong again.
That's not surprising. So, he has an opinion or two. So Eric, though, from a top line perspective, as you work with a lot of brands, some are actually in this room today, what are you seeing, how are you seeing them approach content from a real true storytelling perspective, and how are you helping them balance the fact that they are funding it, but you have talent on the other side that want to make sure that it's staying organic and not a 30-second spot? So what are you seeing, and how are you seeing brands talk about this? And are we moving in the right direction, or?
Yeah, I think for the most part we are. I think we're out of the rut. I apologize if this offends anybody. Of content creators, content companies getting the same briefs that the ad agencies and the creative agencies get, because that oftentimes is not the best place to start, or is not a great genesis for an entertainment idea. And that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's got a team that's looking at open to hearing original ideas that are early on in the stages that we've got that might fit, and then working with us to really figure out how we gel with the brand teams or what those brand objectives are. But I think there's an overall movement to more of that expertise inside the brand teams and the agency teams, and just sophistication and doing those things. And I think we're sort of, this year, there's going to be, whether we call them hits in a non-linear sense, or a linear sense rather, who knows, but really brand-funded things that don't qualify as brand entertainment that are going to rocket to the top.
And from us, from our team at CAA, we see a lot of brands really coming in as branded studio, branded publisher, and coming in from a different angle versus a kind of 2x4 RFP, which there are places and times for all of that. But that's been really organic for us, because that allows us to have the conversation of, oh, you're trying to do this person's trying to do that, let's put it together and make it something that feels right versus any one person feeling sold in. There's always good as something, as we all know. Chad, talk about for a second what you're looking forward to, what you guys are up to, Topgolf-wise, in terms of content, because there may be some people in this room that could be interested in that.
Yeah, I love working with you. No, but for us, ultimately,
I'm a little scared of her.
Yeah. For us, we're building a portfolio of content, and so we're doing original programming around competition. We have the second season we just finished called Topgolf Tour, competitive series where we literally play that are just amateur golfers, or not, essentially they're not pros in any way, but they just love Topgolf and they feel competitive. They come together, play around the world, and then we fly them to the best of Vegas, and they compete for $50,000 on a reality competition show. We just did that with Eric. We're actually doing a documentary series about how Topgolf can actually help within communities. We partner with Make-A-Wish, Folds of Honor for veterans organizations. We just did there's a group of soldiers over in Iraq that wrote us a letter about how they were Topgolf fans. And so we realized, let's actually take some of our older clubs, instead of just taking them to recycling, let's ship them back over, or ship them overseas, and actually set them little maps and pads, and now the soldiers have basically a little virtual Topgolf, and so we're doing a little documentary about that, and how that kind of came together.
And then your Houston documentary.
Yeah, and then Houston, so interesting with Hurricane Harvey, when that came through, we employ roughly 1,200 associates in the Houston area, a little more actually, but 1,000 of them were actually affected by Hurricane Harvey. Several hundred of them could not even get to work. Their cars were either underwater, their homes were destroyed, or at least flooded. And so, and what was interesting about our company is that spirit of coming together and helping the community. We started to we literally filled up a semi-truck with food and sent it in there, and so many of our associates were volunteering, and I'm like, well, we should, I don't want to exploit this as a brand, but I want to at least document it and tell that story. And so we put together a video and sent a crew down there, and came out with I think a pretty powerful, 3.5-minute documentary short. And in a way, and when I pitched it, of course, to our, the various executives from the company, I said, look, we might not even mention Topgolf in this. We might never even see the word or say the word. It should just be our passion and what we do in a community that comes through in it, but it's not like, hey, Topgolf saved these people.
And I would say that kind of video, though, also, I come from a talent perspective, that video goes out, we have talent calling us saying, like, how can we partner with Topgolf? How can we figure it out? So yes, I know you don't want to exploit it, but it's
there is a fine line.
It's something that you guys did. So those are the questions that I got for you guys today. So if there's any questions out there, we're happy to take them. Randy, yes, sir.
Just wondering what platforms you use for distribution and kind of was it equal? Did you move it over time?
Go ahead.
Well, for Topgolf, I mean, we're distributing most of our original content on Facebook and YouTube. We'll do promotion on Twitter and Instagram. About to start looking at expanding our distribution into more of a set-top arena and into streaming networks.
And we also thought, Charles got on board to this again from his passion, but also because in some ways, sometimes, not all the time, these can act as backdoor pilots, right? These can act as proof of concepts to then take to your traditional streaming networks or even the linear and cable network. So we have season 2 coming out. We'll have a good amount of content. We'll talk about maybe licensing that out. We'll see if it's something we want to take more broadly to linear or cable, and we'll take it from there. But the intention, that's what we talked so much in chat about, was like keeping it real for Charles and making sure that it was entertaining if this ever had hope of living outside of the branded world.
Yeah. On Facebook, you use Facebook's watch program to play full episodes and that kind of thing, not just teasers.
Well, we use their channel.
Yeah.
It wasn't Facebook Watch specifically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when we started watching.
Watch wasn't there.
Wasn't there yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Bill.
So, I've heard that Topgolf is an entry point for millennials into the game that have kind of given up on golf to some degree or as a sagging category. Are you seeing content bringing even more millennial audiences into your location?
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing about, I think for us as a company in the world of golf, even though we are in the business of golf, we think of ourselves beyond just golf, but I mean, 70% of our audience is 35 and under. I mean, I don't think anyone else, no one else in the world of golf has numbers like that. I think it's 32% of our audience that comes to our venues are female. Again, it's just like these are staggering numbers that the golf industry is not seeing. And so, yes, we represent a new audience and a growing audience that, and in a way, we liken it to, ski resorts before snowboarding. I mean, they had a certain image, they had a certain reputation, and then snowboarding came in. Sometimes there was a little bit of resistance, but now when you think of a ski resort, it's a much broader experience, and that's how.
And the PGA is totally embracing it.
Yeah, and I think that's what when we look at 10 years from now, what people think of as the golf business. I mean, obviously, I think a big part of what we're doing will help change that definition of what golf is, especially to a younger audience. They're not going to think of it as a country club that you go to on a Sunday for 5 hours and just kind of disappear from your families. It's that. I know your passions.
That's great.
But yeah, we're finding new audiences and much younger that the golf industry recognizes, and that's why Kelley is a partner of us, and we're bringing in other brands, and they see in a way it's like we're a brand, but we can actually leverage other brands on top of our audience with our venues and also with our content.
We have 1 more minute if there's anything else. If not, I'll give you that minute back. Back it up.
Is it the way I expect is your Facebook demos definitely skew older and the YouTube skew younger? You see that, so Darius Rucker-Reed is better on the Facebook release, and then Ballerini, who's the younger, will do better on YouTube. Is it divide that way?
A bit. I mean, certainly, I didn't realize how, say, for example, Darius had a much larger international following than I expected. So, like, when we launched that on Facebook, that particular video on that network had a much higher, I can't quote exactly, but it was like, wow, we're getting a lot more international viewers with that episode than we did with any of our other content. Whereas Kelsey didn't do that, but on Instagram, Kelsey did huge for us.
Which totally makes sense. I love the sizzle reel, seeing the diversity of age and style and genre for each of the talent you use. It helps kind of like spread out your platform and grab different organics.
Yeah, and we talk about that even when casting is, when we even think about our talent, it's a portfolio that's hitting different markets and different audiences or demographics that, not only extend from, maybe just country music or pop music or let's get an athlete, but how do they also spread into their social media
Well,
network?
I think gone are the days when we as producers are making 11s or 22s, and we don't really care where it lands. supplier. We're, obviously we're sort of zeroing in on the right format for the primary distribution, but everything that we're pre-producing and then shooting and then post-producing is all geared towards the maximum spread of that content across all the platforms. And that's part and parcel of being here, not just the marketing team behind the wall or the network.
I guess to sum up is for the brands and agency partners that work with brands, I would just encourage you to communicate, to let us know from a DNA perspective what you guys are up to, because you never know what hits, right? We have brands come in and talk to us and they say one little thing, one little nugget, we're like, oh my God, Jared Leto wants to do that, or this person wants to do this. And it turns into something way bigger, way more organic, and frankly, just way more effective, and sometimes even fun like this. So thanks again, thanks to you guys for coming.